We're going to have a Final Four match. They are prepping right now, getting this final table ready to play. Let's see what it looks like. Who do we got here? Do we want to say hi real quick before I cut away?
This is Elena.
Elena.
One of the youngest Lorcana fans there is. So, hello, welcome to the stream.
It's a fresh baby right there.
I thought I wouldn't leave you hanging.
Oh, I appreciate
we'll come and co-host for a little bit.
Well, let's see here. Let's see what we've got going on over the table. All right, they are prepping right now. We've got Jacob and Bobby are going to be facing off against each other in just, I believe, a Final Four match.
And Jack, since I had to go run and grab her, do you know what colors we have represented? What colors we have represented amongst Jake and Bobby?
Honestly, I am not sure.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. It's at this point, Liam was the one kind of keeping an eye on that stuff. So we'll see exactly.
We'll see what it looks like. We have a Ruby Amethyst on Jacob's side.
All right, Ruby Amethyst over there.
Haven't been able to take a peek at Bobby's.
Okay, we'll see what Bobby's got.
And before we jump in, Jack, can we see the bracket super fast? I think
sure.
we got a question in the chat.
Yeah, so here's your bracket. I don't have the Final Four lined up here, but yeah, it's there we go. We got Bobby and was it Bobby and Jacob playing right now?
And then we have Aaron, and as I said, I stepped away, so I don't know who won the Ryan-Robert matchup.
Okay.
But we'll definitely figure that out for you.
All right, so Bobby and Jacob going to be playing right now versus each other. Gotta love that. That's like a giant mat folded over, I think, right?
I think so.
On Bobby's side. Jacob with the Honey Wizard. Some of the greatest art in this game. It's such a good piece of art. Okay. Let's do it. Let's get into another match. This is our Final Four. Jacob has got the first play. Dropping Olaf. You gotta love some Olaf.
He's a happy snowman.
He is a happy snowman. Welcome back, Liam. So we got Jacob and Bobby here. And I believe the pricing is they've decided to split, but they're going to keep playing the matches, right?
That's correct. You know, the pricing structure in these tournaments oftentimes gives players an incentive to split that top four, which makes a lot of sense. But in this case, they want to know, and we want to know who the top player is in this tournament. So we're going to play it out and bring you the top four of this amazing 100-person event.
All right. I see Breezy very excited for the cloth mat.
Yeah, I do want to point out we interviewed him on the stream earlier. So if you've been with us all day, you've met him already. But Bobby Rake, a former Kai Judo world champion, Kai Judo being another game designed by Ryan Miller and Steve Warner, and so he is an excellent player who's been piloting this deck for a long time. And we're going to get to see some top caliber play here. Although I will say, the white on white sleeves makes the inkwell a little hard to read.
Yeah. Let's see, those really bright, colorful sleeves makes it pretty tough. Those the dragon sleeves, I believe. Even the the aqua color ones too. They all kind of blend together. So
they do.
Just saying.
So we do have the mirror here, and it's I know a lot of us don't care so much to watch the mirror oftentimes, but. I will say, when you get to see two players like this who are at the top of their game, watching how they handle this kind of matchup is really, really fascinating. So even though they're two decks that are similar, we're getting to see the best of the best play this deck right now.
Yeah. I'm very, very pumped to see what happens between Jacob and Bobby here as we go into this final match. Jacob already with that 3 lore advantage over Bobby.
I'm going to look at. So as a reminder, if you're interested, the deck lists are available. And we've posted them a few times. Now, I'm going to point one thing out. We call this the mirror. It's actually not quite a mirror. Bobby is playing the control variant of this deck, which we're all very used to seeing. Jacob, let me double check the bracket here. I have to double check which Jacob, because we may be seeing the aggro version of this, which is different. It's important to note.
Yeah, it's real quick. I want to pop to the bracket.
Yep.
It's Jacob Osmanski.
Yeah, let's double check this deck list here.
And just so everybody knows, I did just figure out Aaron, who won the last match we watched, is playing Robert Green as the other top of this top four bracket.
Yeah.
All
okay.
Right.
So I lied. These are the aggro version of this deck did not make it into the top four. Unfortunately, it's an interesting build. Take a look at the deck list. The aggro version of this did do well today, but we are seeing the mirror here.
I think that means, though, if I remember correctly, Robert has the Emerald Steel deck.
Yes. And
so we have an Emerald Steel in the top four. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully to make the top 2.
Oh, that'll be fascinating.
So either way, we're going to get some amazing matches. And the other side, we have, Robert is playing a discard deck against Aaron, our pro player. And on this side, we have two excellent players, Bobby Brake, a former pro player as well. So either way, that final matchup is just going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good one. And it's been a lot of fun to watch these guys advance throughout the competition, and just watching all the different matches and watching the strategies, watching them evolve, and we're having a really, really fun time watching this. So right now, they're playing for the prestige at this point.
Yeah. So one note to point out, I did say earlier that these decks are capable, these bounce control decks are capable of being a little bit aggressive. And so we're seeing here on turn 4, Jacob already with 7 lore, and with a decent board presence of evasives out there. So he's clearly trying to push this and get an early lore advantage. And these decks are capable of doing that.
It is so interesting how many different ways you can play these decks, because you're always thinking about the counter, you're thinking about what you can do versus your opponent, but also what can you do as well. And is that an Atlantis playmat there, I believe? Or is that something else, the one on the right? That font kind of looks familiar.
Chat's going to tell us. I venture to guess this is either a custom mat or it's from a different game. I don't think this is Atlantis themed.
Could it by chance be a Kaijudo mat, since that's Bobby?
Is it a Kaijudo mat?
Chat, what do you got?
Yu-Gi-Oh, because of Eye in the center, that's what we're getting, so that might be it. Okay, so Bobby going wide on the board here. He's got his draw cards out there, played Maleficent, replace a card, Merlin, replace a card, so he's trying to go a little bit wide here, getting some lore himself. And obviously, anytime you're playing Ruby, you're on that 7-turn clock when your opponent's options open up a little bit.
Yeah, but at this time now they're both on that 7-turn clock, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
There's 8 Be Prepareds out there to just wipe the board multiple times.
That is true. I feel like we'll see a lot of refresh of the board this game.
Yeah, and so in that instance, you're playing very measured. Both players trying not to overextend themselves a little bit. You can also telegraph to your opponent, kind of if you're preparing for that Be Prepared by what you're choosing to play. But here, what is critical in this matchup, or not critical, but it helps, is being able to rush ahead for that early lore, especially if you're on the play, and get that edge, which Jacob has done. And so even if we start to get in a battle of Be Prepareds, it's a lot easier for Jacob to squeak out a lore here and there to try to close this game out.
I feel like, how prepared can you get? I mean, at some point, yeah, we get it. We're prepared. We understand. We've lined up everything. The hyenas are ready to go. Jacob jumping up to a 10 lore advantage already. It is wild because, you'd ask me before. I mean, if you would have asked me before, I said someone's up 10 lore, I'd be like, well, that's pretty much game over. But we've seen multiple times that no, that is not the case during these matches. They can bounce, they can stretch, they can do all kinds of stuff and really draw out these games.
Yeah. So Bobby trying to get a little bit of few characters off the board, reduce that lore advantage a little bit. But he's only going to be able to slow the bleeding, it seems like.
Okay. And Minnie went questing. So now we're at 13-4. Jacob with a 9 lore advantage. And looking at another 5 on the board right now.
Yeah, it's just a tough position to be in.
Yeah. I mean, a goat wins it, basically, if Bobby can't do something this next turn.
Well, and that's a part of the problem. Like I said, in a control deck, in these matchups against a Ruby Amethyst deck, you have to be prepared for it to go a long time.
Yeah.
And in the event the game stretches that long, as we said last round, every goat represents 2 lore. So once you're sitting at 13, 14, or 15 lore, you can just play extended long games, or extend the game out and just draw into your goats if necessary.
Yep.
It's not the ideal plan, but it is an option to close the game out. So,
right, Bobby hands it over to Jacob and goes questing for that 5 lore, puts him up to 18. Are we going to see a goat drop? Waiting for it, tapping that, and Peter Pan Shadow. Okay. Then,
yeah, just evasive.
Yep, and then this will pretty much do it unless Bobby has an answer for those 2 evasive Peter Pan Shadows.
And crucially, I think we're sitting on 5 ink, which is 6 ink now, which is not going to give Bob the ability to do what he needs to do to clear the board. So.
Yep, I think this might be a handshake. Let's see here.
So there you go. So Bobby, always play your outs. Bobby's if you have him. So Bobby clearing the rabbit so we can draw a card, seeing what he can do.
Okay, Bobby looking through his hand here. Quite a few cards.
Quite a few cards. I mean, so there's some direct damage here. There's Teeth and Ambitions. There's also the ability to scoop, which we're doing right now. So I missed it. Jacob was on the play of that game, correct?
Well, it was Bobby's turn. Oh yeah, I think Bobby actually was on the first go.
Okay.
I don't know. On the play, is that the proper term
first
for
turn.
it?
Yeah, oftentimes. So another Magic or a TCG term on the play. It sounds better than go first, but really, in many card games, I don't think all card games, many card games, the first player, because they have an advantage by going first, don't get to draw a card. And so it's typical to say on the play or on the draw rather than go first or go second.
This makes you sound fancier, too. I appreciate that.
It does.
Shout out to Lorcana Goon saying Merlin Rabbit, best card in Lorcana.
It is a great card.
Yeah, it's wild that the Merlin Mim combo has been so much fun, and I do love the fact that that's what they brought. That's they brought it from Sword in the Stone. They're like, hey, let's just make a whole series of Merlin and Mims, and then the way they did it, the way they worked the narrative into it as well, makes so much sense, and that's so great watching them change different animals and then working against each other. It's such a cool combo, and it's so nice that it works together so well, and we're seeing it so often right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the rabbit. Any card that replaces itself is good, right? Like more TCG 101, more cards equals better. And so any card that replaces itself is good. There's a reason Maleficent is a pretty common card to see. It's because, she gets on the board, she can then sing, but crucially, she replaces herself. And so you get a card on the board while, maintaining that card in your hand. Rabbit, as people are pointing out, replaces itself, and then you get another card.
Yeah.
So it gives you board presence, and if you can bounce it with something else, you potentially get, 2, 3, 4 cards out of it.
Yeah.
So it's just good.
It's pretty huge.
It's just good.
Big rabbits. All right, here we go. Going for our draws now through our mulligan phase. Let's see if Jacob can shut this one down quick. Again, we had Bobby on earlier. If you check out the YouTube archive of this, maybe it'll be in the archive there. You can watch our interview with him. So
Bobby's sending 5 back. I didn't see, looking at the other one, looking at Jacob's hand, sending 3. And interesting, we're getting to see Jacob's choices here. Definitely kept an Olaf and a rabbit. That's what I saw. So, both players here, based on how that one played out, Jacob rushing ahead early, both players are thinking here about what they need to do to prevent their opponent from taking that same strategy and trying to generate, all of that lore rapidly. So they're looking for Minnie Mouses, is a great card to play on turn 3 with 2 lore, and tricky to remove because it's evasive. They wouldn't be sad to see a Pan's Shadow. Even though it's uninkable, I think that might be an uninkable you keep in your opening hand to allow you to deal with the evasives and to give your foxes evasive to deal with threats. That's why Pan's Shadow is so good in this matchup. So they're happy to see Pan's Shadow. I think they're happy to see Minnie Mouses. That's what they're looking for. Turn 1 play is nice because for 2 reasons. 1, Olaf gives you a target for Teeth and Ambitions, which allows you to damage your 1/3 in order to damage your opponent. And here we're seeing the 1/3 played. But you also can use it to squeak out maybe a lore or 2 to give you that edge. So all of them are thinking about turns 1 through 5 here and how they can develop a board state. They're not going to play this the same way as they would against a control deck, where they might be content to ink some of these lower cost cards instead. But they're both going to try to play aggressive here.
It is fascinating. So in a typical deck, so these players here, how many turns do you think they have in their head when they're starting a match? They can look at their cards and be like, I know what I'm going to do for the next X number of turns. Would it be 3, 4, 5?
My guess, at least 4.
Wow.
At least 4, if not 5. And depending on the deck, if you're a card that you're targeting on turn 5, like Whole New World, you're factoring that in. Even if you don't have it, you're thinking, my first 4 turns are 1, 2, this, and this, and then Whole New World on turn 5, even if you're drawing into it. So for me, and I'd be interested to hear what other pro players say, I think at least the first 4 turns in your hand you've got mapped out, if not turns 5 as well. And of course that changes as you draw cards, but you're definitely thinking ahead.
Okay. There you go. We got to bounce the rush, and down goes the snowman.
Here we go. Fox is such a good card. Such a good card. And now Olaf has done work early game, gotten some lore, and might be a contender for the Inkwell at this point.
I know. It's like on the other end. Just the Fox bounce and melt combo. Okay, we got Kuzco on the board for Jacob. Bobby sitting with a Kuzco and a Fox. And a Kuzco goes in the... We are Kuzco heavy here on the third turn of this Final Four matchup between Bobby and Jacob.
It's llama on llama.
All right, all knotted up too, all in the lore counter there. And we'll see.
Yeah, I was about to say turn 3 is about the turn we'd like to start seeing a Minnie Mouse. And here she is, 2 lore. And now this is where Pan's Shadow is great. So, Bobby looking for a Pan's Shadow to help his Fox out if he can eventually, if Minnie Mouse is vulnerable. But that's why it's in this deck. Rabbit coming out, extra card. You're never sad to play the rabbit. And then removing Kuzco.
Never sad to play the rabbit, indeed.
Rabbit again. And there's the quest for 2. Minnie Mouse, of course, with evasive, difficult to remove. So if Bobby is holding on to a Pan's Shadow, that would be ideal here, kind of luring Jacob into that quest. Pan's Shadow would make Minnie Mouse vulnerable to the Fox, so it'd be a nice defensive play here. But with 5, we're going to see a Dragonfire instead, removing the Minnie Mouse. So. Yeah, get that Minnie Mouse off the board, prevent that lore gain.
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen a lot of Dragonfire.
We have not. Dragonfire is uninkable, right? So it takes up a spot in that deck. So I don't know that every control deck runs it because it is a little expensive, but crucially, it is uninkable, and you have to be careful with those slots. But doing work here in this match.
So we spoke earlier to Chris, and he mentioned that he was playing with 64 cards. So, obviously the deck itself, you have to have at least 60, and people go pretty much just at that number. Is there a disadvantage playing more cards than 60?
Yes.
Why so?
Consistency.
Okay.
You want your deck to be consistent. You want to know what it's going to do. You want to know what your outs are. You want to know what you're going to draw into, and you want it to perform kind of the same in every match. And to allow you to game plan. And so the more cards you have in your deck, it leads to more variety of cards in your deck, which means that your deck isn't quite as consistent and it's going to do different things. Now, sometimes if there's a heavy mill in the meta, or if you are a mill deck running cards like A Whole New World, you may play an extra card or 2 just to give you an extra draw or 2. But it's not super common. I think the answer why you run 60 on the nose is consistency, and that's what it's really about when it comes to these competitive events.
So what's going to happen when we have the Dalmatian decks? Because you can run up to 99 Dalmatians, and the next one 99 puppies, right?
You have to.
Yeah. So then you're running 100 card decks. So then it all goes out the window.
Yeah, but there's like if I want everybody to tag me if we ever see a 99 Dalmatian deck in a top 8 of a significant tournament. So I challenge you to make that happen, and when it happens, I want to know.
That'll be so incredible. Someone's going to try it. Someone's going to give it a shot.
I hope they do.
Hey,
Spellbook coming. Okay, so Spellbook is an interesting play here. Spellbook, you do see it in some lists, but I don't think you see it in a ton of them now. Spellbook allows you to close out these control games late, give you a lore, each turn, and it was popular initially. I think it's dropped off a bit now, but again, it's uninkable. And so you have to consider that when you're including it. It does take up an uninkable slot. But Bobby playing it here, looking to get a lore out of it every turn, and if this game goes long, he can just count down the turns to winning the game.
It is wild. It took so long to see a Spellbook. That's one of my favorite cards. I love Spellbook.
Yeah.
I think in my... we went to the Floodborne launch event, the starter deck event, when the game, or when Floodborne came out, and in my booster with my starter deck was Spellbook. And I was like, this is a really awesome card. And so I'm in love with it. It's my favorite card. Well, it's not my favorite. It's one of my favorite. Bucky's probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the squirrel.
Man, I'm gonna have to build a deck around Bucky now. Watching this, I've been like some of those games, some of the most fun I saw this whole weekend. So it'll be fun to build a deck, a really nice deck, and then consistently lose. All right, Bobby at 9 lore to Jacob's 4, trying to make up that one match difference, that one game difference. We got a snake bounce. And also you have to keep in mind that Spellbook too, you need to pay an ink in order to trigger it. So it's not just free lore. It does cost at least one, which a lot of times you might forget that and then suddenly you can't use it. So keep that in mind when you run your Spellbook decks.
And sometimes that one ink makes all the difference, so.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Here we go. Things looking solid here. Got a bunch of rabbits out there. 3 rabbits on the table for those of you keeping score. They multiply from what I understand. Rabbits do that very, very quickly.
They are known. It is known.
Bobby using the Spellbook to bump up to 10 lore. All right, Jacob. Just happy to take the 2 lore for the rabbits. Let's see if any of those get bounced. Yeah, I see some people in chat talking about the next expansion meta. It's going to be a lot of fun when things get changed. Adding locations to the game, I think, is going to add a really, really significant change. And I think I think it's gonna be a big deal. I think a lot of people think it might not be significant. I think it's gonna be really, really huge when that happens. So we'll see. We'll see though. I'm excited for it.
Thank you. I just had a life-saving coffee delivery. This is awesome.
Were you fading?
I'm fueled and ready to go now.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Late night last night? Or early morning this morning?
Both. So yeah, for those, we have posted the list here several times. If anyone wants to take a look at Bobby's list or Jacob's list, it's available on PPG's website. You can scroll up for the link.
R&B says, I don't think locations are going to have the impact on the meta people think it's going to. I don't know. I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll see in 2 weeks. All right, here we go. Bobby whittling away, trying to get up to 20, halfway there. Jacob paying 3 to play for Maleficent there, picking up a card.
Yeah, so, one thing I'll note on Spellbook, it is immune to be prepared.
True.
So one of the things that makes it good in the mirror, it does get you a lore return. It is good in late game, and a lot of these games do go late, but, your opponent is trying to clear the board with Be Prepared at some point to stall your lore gain, and Book is obviously immune. There's also no item removal in these lists. So it is there and it is on the board, and if a player wants to devote ink to it, like for example right now Bobby is on a 10 turn clock to win the game. If you count for an Ursula, maybe an 11 or 12 turn clock, but nevertheless Bobby can persistently gain lore every turn despite his opponent's character removal.
Now that being said, it shocks me that we're not seeing more item decks too. Like I feel like an item deck is kind of the counter to the Ruby Amethyst. Is that something that it's just not very common, or are there not enough items out there to really build a deck around right now?
I think some people would say the latter. Although I will say the Sapphire Steel deck that we saw really is an item ramp deck. It does use items to both draw cards and then to with Fishbone Quill put things in the inkwell. So it is running items as a key part of it. So I'd argue that's an item deck that we see rising in the meta.
Okay.
And now an evasive mini on the board, a foil evasive mini.
Foils makes it more valuable.
It does.
It's just, it's fun to look at.
Yeah, and it's great. So Bobby's sitting at 13 lore. Evasive Mini is a play that he likes here. A quest for 2, so he can push himself to 15, get within goat striking distance. And so, one of the things Bobby's thinking about here, now that we're above 7 lore, is, how he doesn't want to overextend himself, in case the board wipe comes. So he's thinking about that. But clearly, with another card or two, he's within striking distance of closing this game out. And so I need to put just enough out that maybe I can threaten to end the game in 1 or 2 turns, pull out that Be Prepared and force, my opponent to use it. But if he doesn't have it, I can win the game. But he doesn't want to put too much on the board just yet. Unfortunately for Jacob, sitting there with a lot of Ursulas in hand, which is a good card, but uninkable. So really your option is to play it or nothing else.
Yeah.
And can use it to slow Bobby down a little bit. But yeah, I think there are 3 of them there. So yeah.
Okay. See Minnie knocking out a rabbit.
So Jacob clearly trying to slow down Bobby's lore gain.
That spellbook's just going to eat away at that, slowly but surely. All right, and there's one of the Ursulas.
Yeah, and it's but I think Jacob's happy to play it here, although it's like his only option, or one of his only options likely. Slows Bobby down a little bit, gives him a card, and now and the one problem with Ursula, the one thing she does not do well is challenge very well. So, in terms of trying to take out your opponent's characters, she's not as great there.
Yeah, it is interesting. She doesn't have the strongest of attack.
Which usually you're totally fine with because you're playing her end game. You want her to stick around. So the trade-off for strength is willpower, and you're really happy to have her with a lot of willpower. But when you are trying to slow your opponent down, you like to have a little more strength. But at this point, the card draw and the lore reduction is good for Jacob.
Yeah. So I imagine we're going to see some questing. There we go. There's 3 for questing. And then that spellbook has still not been exerted just yet. Looks like 7 for
and there's Be Prepared.
Be Prepared. Bobby threw it.
So Jacob kind of drawing it out with that Ursula. And again, Bobby with the spellbook now, 5-turn clock. So he's kind of happy to control this board. If he has another Be Prepared, he's happy to let Jacob build up the board a little bit and to really draw this game out. Because if nothing else changes, Bobby can close this down in 4 turns with that spellbook. So right now he's just playing defense against the characters and
just running out the clock at this point.
And kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And that being said, there are no clocks. In the finals here, there's no time limit, so this game will run as long as it needs to. And then we'll have one more match. Again, the winner of this will move on to our finals here at TCG Con here in Houston, Texas. Again, shout out to PPG for bringing us out and letting us cast this game. And let everyone know if you had a good time, if you enjoyed watching it, if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff, if you'd like to hear us back on the microphone, we'd love to be back. All right, so Jacob got a Peter Pan Shadow and a rabbit out there. That spellbook just looming. Do you have Bobby's deck list up by chance? I'm curious how many spellbooks are in the actual deck itself.
I will check, although I feel like
there's a goat.
The chat may get it up faster than I do.
All right, the goat is out. Are we going to see a bounce? And there's the bounce. That's one more. Bobby is 1 lore away. So Jacob, next turn, has to do something about that book, that goat, that snake.
Nothing to be done. The thing about when a goat's in hand, there's nothing this deck can do about it. Yep. So once the goat's there, there's one thing he can do. Well, no, there's really nothing he can do. I was going to say he can Ursula minus a lore, but the spellbook's going to provide 1 lore, and then so that's all she wrote.
Well, one thing you can do is just stand up and flip the table. So not going to do that because we are good sports people here. So there we go. But Bobby ties it up. We are now sitting at 1-1 here in this Final Four matchup.
Yeah, so let's pull up this deck list here. So
all right, what do we got?
So it's an interesting deck list. I invite you to take a look at it because it's a little bit different. There's a few things I'll draw attention to. It's only running 3 Lady Tremaines. In place of that 4th Lady Tremaine, I think that some lists run, we have 1 Elsa in the top end, and so that card's available. We're running the Crabs, which are good against the mirror. Only 1 Maui, and then Sorcerer Spellbook. There are 2.
2 of them. Okay.
Which is probably the right number. They are uninkable, and which is such a problem. So you're happy to draw one, even just one, at any point in the later game, the mid to late game in mirror match. You don't want it in your opening hand, and so having 4 of them is a bit much. But one that you can draw into as the game goes on is good. So two there. So interesting things I see. I will make note of the crabs. Interestingly,
I will make note of the crabs. Is that something you ever think you would say in your life?
I'm going to point one more thing out.
Okay.
There's no Pan's Shadow in this list.
Wow.
Which is fascinating to me because I think I've seen Bobby play this list before with... I might be thinking of Aaron Rubin. Anyway, there is no Pan's Shadow in the list, which we see a lot for this mirror match. Instead, I think Bobby's included the spell books for the mirror, which take up that slot, and then the 2 dragon fires. So probably the calculation that he's made is removing the Pan's Shadow for kind of those 2 cards. It's obviously not as clean as a 1-for-1 there, but those are some of the differences we see. And then an Elsa on the top end, and so fascinating list. Different than Jacob's, I'm sure. So we're seeing 2 variants to this deck.
All right. Well, it's nice to have a little bit of difference here. And I'm just happy to see Spellbook. That's one of my favorite cards. So seeing it hit the table, that makes me very, very happy. Again, we've watched, how many matches have we watched now? We watched 7 yesterday, and this is our 3rd one today.
So many matches.
We got 1 more after this. That's right, the finals for TCG Con Houston are happening after this game. Will Bobby or Jacob make it? Let us know who you're cheering for in chat right now. Which combination of cards, of decks, of spellbooks do you think will make it on? They're going through, deciding what they're going to be.
All right, I think that's 1, 2, 3 cards going back for Bobby. Clearly kind of happy. And
2, I think, for Jacob.
And 2. Okay, so both players somewhat happy with their initial draws.
So what happens if, you don't need to mulligan anything? Do you put your deck down and just stare at your opponent and just try to really intimidate him? Is that like the card game version of the Haka? And just mad dogging them?
You can.
Getting in their brain space?
It's a technique. You can also chuckle to yourself. There's a variety of techniques you can use at that point. But clearly the cards are with you that game, so you feel pretty good.
Do you have a preferred way of breaking a deck, of like cutting a deck for your opponent? Do you go thin? Do you go like dead middle? What, do you aim for anywhere? Do you split into multiple stacks?
It depends on my mood.
Okay.
I don't do the shuffle that some opponents do, where they take opponent's deck and shuffle. I understand why people do it, but I'm just a deck cutter, a single deck cutter.
Yeah, I think good sportsmanship is like I try not to touch my opponent's cards as much as possible. So it's pretty much one cut done. It's like there you go. I'll stack it for them.
Yeah. All right.
All right, minis on the table.
Jacob coming out early with 1 play. We did see a question about the other match result. They're still playing. I can see them behind me going at it. So they're probably at game 3 as well, which is interesting. All right, so the mini.
Okay, mini on mini.
Mirror. And
mirror.
In this mirror, the foil is clearly the reflection. So this is a true mirror scenario here.
I've been searching for the mini in the mirror.
I see what you did.
Thank you. I don't know how much of Shad will pick up on that, but I appreciate it.
All right. So again, I think the strategy here, both players have kind of gone aggressive early in different games. Jacob getting the edge the first game with some very aggressive play, picking up a lot of lore early. So both players have that in mind. We'll see how they choose to play this. I've seen... there is a strategy here to go very aggressive. There's also one to control it a bit more and try to draw the game out.
So you can go super quick or super slow. Either way, pick your poison. I guess it really depends on what you've drawn, right?
That's true, but you do have a strategy going into the game, I think, in a way you'd like to play it. If given the cards.
Yeah.
So here, the snake, getting the snake on the board is great. It's not great for lore in terms of being aggressive, but it's a great board presence. It's got that 3 strength on the front end, so it can clear, the 1/3s or a lot of other threats. And so it's clearly more of a defensive play. Jacob with the Minnie Mouse on 3 is kind of exactly what he wants to do. I think both players are happy to get that evasive 2 lore Minnie Mouse out as early as possible, so to start gathering lore, because it takes a minute for the other deck to have an answer, especially if that Minnie Mouse comes out for the player on the play.
And for those of you at home, if you're going to go surfing, don't let a cat be on your surfboard.
All right, so here, this is the exact scenario why people started including, or one of them, why people started including Crab in this deck. Once to get around Resist, but once for this specific moment.
Okay.
If Jacob quests with a Minnie Mouse, the Crab gives Bobby the ability to challenge Minnie Mouse with his evasive Minnie and take it out one for one, not one for one, but for free.
Yeah.
So the Crab is in here in preparation for the mirror, and so we'll see if it pays off for Bobby here, because it would be fun to see that play out.
All right. Well, Jacob is now up 6 lore to 1. We'll see. Someone pointed out Dragonfire is also something that could knock the Mini off the surfboard.
But not for another turn, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There it is. There's
Wow.
the payoff. The Crab for Minnie Mouse, removing Minnie Mouse. That is I'm so excited. That is exactly why for the mirror.
Liam is jumping up and down.
Well,
you can't see it right now, but he is
everybody
bouncing.
says I include it for the mirror. I include it for. This is exactly why.
So I don't know if you watch poker at all, but you are the Daniel Negreanu of Lorcana right now. That guy could read a table and tell you what everyone is going to play, and this has been so fun to watch you do this. You are in your element right now, Liam, and I'm happy to be here for you.
I appreciate that. I will point out to you, looking at Bobby's list, there's only 2 Crabs I think he runs in this deck. So he was looking for it in the early game, or in the mulligan probably. He probably had it on his first draw, given he only mulliganed away 3. But it's one of the cards that he's searching for that exact moment.
That is really, really impressive. You
Yeah.
gotta love it. You gotta love when you see it.
Now, I will say, people pointing out in the chat, yes, there's plenty of other scenarios, character and characters to use it for, but I really do think, given the prevalence in the meta, the ability to use evasives to take out other evasives here with the low strength, high willpower evasive characters, that's one of the scenarios people were thinking of. The other one I will mention is Resist. With the rise of Resist in some of the steel decks, with Cogsworth and with weird Tiana aggro decks in the meta, that's another reason Challenger 3 is really good, is to get through the resistance. But I really do think that this is one of the top 3 moments in players' minds when they put this in this deck.
And also, Rise of the Resist is a attraction at Disney World. If you ever want to go on it, it's really great.
Yeah. But I will look back on this. I keep talking about that play, and this game may go way on. This game may be way drawn out, and we may have other key moments. But if you look back on this game, there are key turns in a game that you see the whole momentum shift, and the whole game comes down to that one play, and the Minnie Mouse Crab sequence is a pivotal moment in this game.
That is awesome. And again, I love hearing terms like Minnie Mouse Crab sequence. That's just like. Sounds like a really fancy order at a restaurant you'd get, like maybe a sandwich or something. Wow. So Bobby's, down 5 lore, but with that mini evasive right there, I mean, that's free real estate.
That is true. And Jacob has some answers, Pan's Shadows and some other removal, but yeah, I mean, anytime you have an evasive character on the board and your opponent doesn't, it feels good. One of the removal vehicles for Jacob is the Fox that comes down, and with a Rabbit on the board, you'll love to quest with Rabbit and then play the Fox and then do your challenge and get the card payoff. But with the evasive on the board, that is not feasible without a Pan's Shadow.
Okay, so he let Minnie sing Friends on the Other Side. Do you think that's a good thing to do, or do you want to take the 2 lore? Because she's pretty much guaranteed lore at this point, with no evasive on the table.
If there's one thing I will never do, it's question Bobby Break when he's playing a card table. So
okay.
I'm
naive enough to still do that. So
right?
Bobby, what are you thinking, man?
I'm never going to question any of his plays, but because he knows what he's doing. So clearly there might be a key card he's looking for. He may have some uninkables, but clearly he wanted the cards there. Getting the lore is nice, but yeah, singing Friends always feels good.
Yeah. All right, another rabbit. Lots of rabbits on the field. Again, they keep multiplying. We don't know what to do about them. And Kuzco comes down. We got a Maui for a Crab. And the Mini is going to be, untouched because she is evasive. Jacob with picked up another lore, and so here we go.
Yeah, it's just good. I mean, like I said before, TCG 101, more cards is better. So, anytime that you can trade friends for 2 cards, give yourself more options, more outs, more variants, more variables. It's just good. So
Liam, we have 4 rabbits on the table.
There are 4 rabbits on the table. And 2
snowmen.
Goons pointed out, probably one of the best cards in the game. 4 Merlin rabbits.
There we go.
But there's Bobby with the lore push, starting to put the pressure on.
Okay.
And so again, be prepared is an option here. We're going into turn 7, and so Bobby is tracking that that's an option. He's trying to draw out that be prepared so that he has what he needs to rebuild the board. And one thing I'll mention, we
have 5 rabbits on the table. 5 rabbits on the table.
And I will look at that draw. For those who didn't see it, I think Be Prepared would have been the play this turn if he had it. But Jacob instead rabbiting into a Be Prepared sets him up for next turn. Would have liked to have it this turn, but next turn for sure. And one thing I will say too, it doesn't feel so bad wiping the board when you're drawing 3 cards off of it. So although you'd like to get the rabbit bounce going a little bit to draw some extra cards, Be Prepareding and drawing 3 cards doesn't feel awful.
Now, would that be the rabbit hop as opposed to a bounce?
Perhaps.
Okay. I don't know the rabbits bounce so much.
But I'll point out one more thing too. What these decks, as we've seen, really, really would like to do, if left to their own devices, is oftentimes get the Ursula on the board, or Elsa in Bobby's case, or one of those high-end characters to sing the Be Prepared, and then leave your ink free to play. So Bobby knows that a Be Prepared is an option, and so if Jacob is forced to play it with ink and not sing it like he has to do right now, that leaves Bobby in a position to throw some characters on the board first, and to be a little bit more aggressive. And so not being able to sing it, leaves the momentum on Bobby's side.
Yeah. And so Bobby's sitting there with 6 lore on the table right now. We also keep in mind that Be Prepared is going to give a lot of cards into your hand. I mean, you've got literally 5 rabbits on the table right now. They're all going to trigger as soon as they all get wiped off.
And
Going for lore. That's going to put Bobby up to 11, I believe.
Yeah. Now, I will say, too, Bobby, I do feel like the momentum's with Bobby because I think that Be Prepared.
6 rabbits on the table. 6 rabbits on the table, everyone.
Can we get the full... Can we get max rabbit, I wonder?
Oh, my gosh. Can we get 8 rabbits?
So many rabbits.
Make it happen. Come on, guys.
So one thing I will point to, looking at the lore advantage here, Jacob is going to be able to, on his turn, if he chooses to use the Be Prepared, quest for 4.
Okay.
And then play the Be Prepared, putting it 14 lore. So even though Bobby will be able to restock the board, sitting at 14 lore, when you have Goat available, doesn't feel too awful.
So at this point, why would Bobby throw down Minnie Mouse there with the assumption that Be Prepared was most likely going to be coming?
The biggest reason is he's forcing the biggest reason is to force the Be Prepared.
Okay.
So now, if I do my math right, there's 8 lore showing in the board.
You got 7 on the left.
Yeah, 8. So 8 lore showing in the board, which puts Bobby at 19. 19 is a goat play away from winning. And so Bobby is saying, hey, look, if you do not play the Be Prepared, I could win on my turn.
Okay.
Because if I have a goat in hand, it is game. So Jacob has no choice but to play the Be Prepared.
There it is.
Instead of drawing it out potentially another turn. Because Jacob is at 14 lore. So if Jacob, this is the Olaf play is so important. Because here's why. If Jacob can avoid clearing the board, he has 4 lore on. So he pushes it to 8 lore or 18 lore on his turn, and a goat bounce wins the game.
Okay.
So Jacob potentially has lethal in his hand for all we know. Lethal, sorry, I shouldn't use that term, but the game-winning game state in his hand. So Bobby has to play the Olaf to threaten winning on his turn.
Okay.
If he doesn't, now Bobby needs like an extra. He needs a goat bounce, which is less likely than just a goat or a spellbook.
Okay.
So that's why you play the Olaf. It's a math problem.
I think it was a mini, right? Not an Olaf.
No, Olaf.
Oh,
was it a mini?
I thought it was a mini.
Oh yeah, sorry, mini. That's why you play that one lore character. It's a math problem.
Yeah.
And that play, like, don't overlook that play if you're watching. That play
That's
is
rabbit
a
number
pro
4.
play.
Rabbit number 4 for Bobby.
Rabbit number. But I just want to highlight that that's what sets some of the pro players apart from an average player. It's because most players are thinking in that scenario, I'm not going to overextend. I know the Be Prepared's coming. I'm going to save the mini so I have one more character to play. But that Minnie Mouse forced the Be Prepared and prevented Jacob from pursuing lethal on his turn.
Yeah. Wow.
Or on his following turn.
Yeah. All right, so Bobby responds, throwing out 3 characters there. We got Kuzco, Rabbit, and Olaf on the board. I told you Rabbit's best card says Lorcana Goons. I mean, we've seen 7 Rabbits this game. So if Jacob drops another Rabbit, that's the hat trick, right?
That would be the hat trick. Pulling the Rabbit out of the hat. No, there's no.
The Rabbit out of the deck. Maybe off the pile. Not sure. I think legally he would have to play the Rabbit if.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it would be a good play to pick up a card, but
I really do. I might do a whole video on that one Minnie Mouse play.
Okay.
Like I have to. Because
the content creator in you is already going.
Well,
like, what can I do?
I'm stuck on it because I think it goes against people's natural inclinations, and it's something that a lot of people wouldn't quite think of. Maybe I'm selling
I
short,
literally called it out. I said, why would he do that, knowing that he's going to lose that character? And then you went and explained it for me, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure most of the pros in the chat would do that too, but I think it's excellent.
Wow. All right. Jacob is exerting 8 ink to drop an Elsa. So Elsa is going to force 2 cards to not be eligible for, or they're going to basically stay tapped, right? Or stay exerted.
Yeah.
Is she Snow Queen? There's so many Elsas. Hey, oh no, wrong one.
Well, and when I say it's a pro move, it for those who are in this competitive environment, it is a move I think most players would pick up on because they're doing the math and they're assessing and they know the outs. But it's what sets pros apart, whether you're in the chat watching or playing this tournament. It's what sets pros apart from people who are just learning the game.
Dragonfire.
There we go. Dragonfire, as we highlighted, is a card that Bobby runs that not a lot of these lists run. Some do. There's 2 in this deck, and we see one of them here. Spellbook coming out, I think Bobby is very happy to see that in this point of the game. This maybe a turn or 2 earlier, but now we're on a clock. Bobby can gain 1 lore a turn, so the longer this game goes, the better it is for Bobby. So every lore now that he can sneak out reduces that 1 turn clock by 1.
Yeah, because that mini can trade at least one of those characters, but I mean, unless he throws down, I guess maybe a Tremaine could bounce one of them. What's going to happen here?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to venture to guess that after this event, however this match goes, Lorcana Goons, Forgotten Mountain, or Forbidden Mountain, and some of the others, who cover this competitive stuff, will take a look at Bobby's list and highlight it because it's different than a lot of others that we see, and you're seeing the payoff here.
Okay, here we go. Jacob still piecing together the last bit of this turn here to see what they can do. Bobby with that 12 lore just behind Jacob's 14. Both trying to close it out here. The winner of this will move on to the final match of the day. Let's see what happens. All right. Now I feel like it's just slowing down, like hurry up and wait kind of situation.
It is tense. I think both players probably know that the momentum here is with Bobby, and so Jacob's trying to calculate what he can do. He sees the spellbook on the board. That's 1 lore per turn. Just trying to see what his outs are.
Okay. Thinking about it. I can't see from this angle, but I'm assuming his hand is on his chin. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a judge call maybe, or is this?
No.
Okay.
But I am going to go check on this other match real quick.
Okay, cool. All right, Liam is going to go see how the other Final Four match is doing right now. And again, it's done? All right. Judges let me know that it is finished. So we'll find out who is advancing on to the finals match here at TCG Con Houston. Okay. Picking up, okay, just Jacob with a snake in hand now. That Tremaine's out there. What do they want to do? Only 3 ink left. How's it looking? How's the other match going?
I will tell you in a second. Let me catch up here real quick.
Okay. Not much has happened.
All right.
We got an evasive mini out there.
Okay.
Just dropped. And it's on to, I believe, Bobby is about to go. There we go. There's the handoff.
Yeah. People already beating me to it in the chat.
All right.
I'll talk about the implications in a moment.
Okay, so here we go. Bobby now lined up, got all of his, everything is prepped and ready, set, has drawn, and here we go. We'll see what he's going to do. 8 lore to go, put it away. Planning out in his head. So in a situation like this, is he thinking, okay, what can I do and how will Jacob respond to it? Or is it more like I'm going to do what I'm going to do and let the cards land where they may?
No, that's a good question. I mean, he's definitely thinking about how Jacob's going to respond to it. He knows Jacob's deck. He knows exactly what's in it. He knows, how he would play it. He knows what the outs are, and so he's looking at the hand size, calculating what Jacob's options are based on what's been played, and kind of figuring out what the responses are likely to be to his actions. So
Maleficent just murdered Mini Surfer. That seems pretty intense.
Yeah. One of the reasons Spellbook is so good here is, Jacob has to win by, he has to develop a board state. Yes, Goat can close it out, and yes, you can use Goat or several Goats to climb a little bit, but, Jacob has to develop a board state, let something stick for a turn, and start questing.
Yeah.
So with Be Prepared, several of them, or many of them yet to be played, every time the board is cleared, Jacob has to do something in order to get closer to victory, where Bobby can just tick up, because even with the board clear, all it takes is 1 ink to gain a lore. Yeah. So Spellbook, is great in this scenario.
Even with that, I believe the Spellbook, I don't know if he can play it this round, or this turn, because I think he exerted all of his ink to get that Maleficent out there. So he might be at a stuck position currently. Or at least he won't be able to, use the Spellbook.
Yeah, and chat correctly pointing out that in the world of Lorcana, there's no murder. There's only strong hugs to finish characters off, to banish glimmers.
Maleficent strongly hugged a surfing mini.
Yes.
A big,
into the discard pile.
Scaly kiss.
Thanked her for her service.
Characters go unconscious. Okay, that's true.
Yeah. That is true. Knockout.
She's taking a nap. She's
all right.
She's under an umbrella on the beach somewhere.
So taking out Minnie Mouse. It does look like with the Spellbook, we kept talking about how good it is and how the momentum's on Bobby's side. But 14 lore, again with the Goat, like the Goat makes all the difference for Jacob, because with 14 lore, a Goat bounce is 2. And the Goat really can do some work here. So Bobby is clearly, with that removal, being very careful about every lore that he allows Jacob to gain, because that brings him just that much closer to the Goat being able to finish things off.
Just a little bit more. Okay, Jacob's turn here. See what he can do. He is 5 lore away from winning to Bobby's 7 lore away.
And so Bobby, we say 7 lore away. Bobby essentially has a free lore with that Spellbook. It can't be removed. So yes, it does cost an ink, but we can consider Bobby at 14 here. 14 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brings to 19, and then 19 we know is 1 Goat away from the win. And so Bobby, with his board state right now, is showing that he can win the game on his turn, possibly.
Yeah.
Without any sort of removal. So Jacob now has to respond. There is, Be Prepared is always an option, but he has to remove some of those characters and has to make a decision too. Like if the Maleficent is available and he has no other removal, he has to make the choice: do I prevent Bobby from getting closer, or do I scratch 1 step closer? I think I know the answer, but something he has to think about.
All right, looking through a discard pile here. They're checking to see how many cards have been played of some nature, probably how many Be Prepareds have been discarded.
Yeah, and so you're really trying to figure out your opponents out here. There's one note here on the finals. as we said earlier, because we are streaming some of these matches and some of these players were featured yesterday, all of their deck list had to be public knowledge final to the top or prior to the top 16. So in theory, all of these players know what's in their opponent's decks. So Jacob, if he did all of his homework, knows that what Bobby is playing. He knows how many Dragonfires are left. He knows how many of these one-offs that Bobby is running for the mirror. So it's one of the reasons why preparation and homework is so important if that information is available to you.
Jacob planning out their turn, taking their time. So what do you think is going through his head right now?
Jacob, I mean, it's exactly what it is. Jacob's done the math. He's looking to see what's in the discard pile. He's calculating the odds of Bobby either having either having a goat or a spellbook to close out the game. He has to assume that Bobby does. So he has to deal with what unless he can put himself in a position, unless he wants to gamble. There is a play where, if Jacob has what he needs to put himself one lore away from winning, he could gamble and say, let's say hypothetically Bobby has 2 cards in hand. I'm going to assume one's not the goat. I'm going to quest with the Maleficent and put myself 1 lore away from winning and just cross my fingers and hope that Bobby can't close it out on his turn. There is that play. Clearly, that's not what we're doing here, though. And so he's going to assume that Bobby has the ability to end the game and win the game on his turn. So one thing we know as well, like Be Prepared is probably the ideal play here because he challenged with Maleficent. It tells us he probably doesn't have it because the play there would have been to sing with Maleficent or at least scoop up 1 lore. Probably scoop up 1 lore.
Yeah.
So Be Prepared is probably not in the cards, as it were.
Aha. No pun intended?
Pun intended.
Okay.
You have to assume. You always have to assume the pun is intended.
Okay. Oh, that's the worst. All right. Final 4 matchup here. We're almost done. We've got Bobby and Jacob going at it. And who will they face off against?
Oh, so in the final round, we're going to see Aaron Rubin, who is the Magic Pro player that we've highlighted several times. You can see his bio up above. And he's running, as you would expect, Ruby Amethyst Control, but clearly not the package Bobby's running. So we are going to see a mirror, but we're going to see the highest caliber play in the finals, which should be interesting.
And someone will walk away the victor.
We will.
Of the Lorcana tournament here at TCG Houston.
We will. We will.
Yeah.
So this will be great. Let's wait to see how this finishes out, and we're going to see if the spellbook allows Bobby to turn the page on this game and move into the finals.
You did it again. You did it again. You're so proud of yourself. Okay, so Jacob is really, really working it out in his head. Bobby is either giving some support or making some sort of speech. Hard to tell. Again, we can't hear what they're saying.
And this is it. I mean, you can understand why this is the turn where it could, this is the most critical turn.
Absolutely.
So Jacob is taking his time. He's in the semifinals. He's taking his time. He's thinking through it. He wants to make the play that gives him the best odds, play his outs. So he's clearly thinking things through. And I think the pro player that Bobby has no problem letting Jacob take the time he needs to kind of figure this out.
All right. So drops a Maleficent down.
Yeah, and in answer to the chat, we have seen 7 rabbits. We've been waiting for the 8th.
I know. Jacob's got 1 rabbit somewhere. I don't know if we'll see it, but it would be so sweet. Okay, looks he's got.
Some people are offering that one thing Bobby could do is just show that he has the goat bounce, that he's got the 2 lore in his hand if he has it, to let his opponent know there's no point in thinking things through. But I don't think that's correct. I do think Jacob has some removal he could probably play, and if he removes 1 or 2 of those characters, it does put him. It does help. So I do think that information at this point would help his decision making. Now removing the Olaf, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lore on the board, 17. Even with a goat bounce, that's 19 lore, which gives Jacob a whole other turn.
Yeah.
Now, the goat bounce, of course, sending the goat back to your hand. Now that's a game win the following turn. But really Jacob's just trying to stretch this out turn by turn at this point.
All right, Bobby's on the clock now. Here we go. Not really the clock. There is no clock, but he's up. What is Bobby going to do? He's been sitting there. So I imagine that whole time he was planning his turn here, but he's still going through his strategy. What is he going to do? How's he going to respond? Is that Tremaine?
Well, yeah, so this is tricky for Bobby. He has to think about this. The Tremaine, in a way, is a great play for one big reason. Yes, it removes a character, but it's also 2 lore.
Yeah.
And, you know, if Bobby had to, or if Jacob had to assume that Bobby had the goat bounce on his turn, Bobby has to assume that Jacob will have the goat bounce available, because you just have to plan for the worst case scenario. So a goat bounce is 2 lore, bringing Jacob to 17, and he's showing 4 lore on the board. So now Bobby has to figure out, you know, how to remove 2 characters, ideally. At the very least, if you can remove Lady Tremaine, he's got to try to do it. So there's the Be Prepared. So again, Bobby forced into the Be Prepared because of that 2 lore Lady Tremaine, which is why it was a great play in that turn. And the spellbook goes off, and Bobby 1 turn closer to ending the game here.
And everything exerted, and it looks like it'll hand back over to Jacob, right?
No, and so people asking, like, he didn't have the goat. The goat, unless I did my math wrong, the goat would not have given Bobby the win because we removed a character from the board. So even with the bounce, Bobby would have been a turn short. And leaving the board cluttered like that on Jacob's side would have allowed Jacob to win on his turn, potentially, if he had the goat bounce combo. So
there's the goat right there.
There is the goat. So he did have the goat, potentially, unless he drew it there. So that would have been the end of the game.
All right.
The goat is great. So I think Bobby's feeling confident here. He's showing 2 lore on the board next game. He's got goat, which can either quest or will be removed. So that's 16. The spellbook, 17. Maleficent, unless it's removed, is 18. And introduce another goat bounce or another goat, and that's all she wrote. But that isn't to say that there aren't outs here. There are. Jacob has things he can do. There's a friend clearly looking for answers here. Trying to draw this game out a little bit. Would love to remove something. A Lady Tremaine would also be, I think Jacob would be happy to remove either one of these characters of the Lady Tremaine and leave 2 lore on the board.
Yep. Okay, what's going to happen? Going through the discard deck again.
And now Bobby is checking. Yeah.
All right, okay. Let's share our discards, everyone.
No,
all knotted up, 15-15. Again, the winner of this will move on to the finals versus Aaron. Let's see what happens. Okay. Jacob's working on his head. Dropping 4 ink for. That is a goat.
That is the goat. He did have the goat.
Up to 16 for Jacob now. They've got 3 more ink left. Paying 2 for the
bounce.
snake. The bounce bumps him up to 17. Okay. Only 1 ink left. I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4. So this is an interesting scenario here. So didn't remove anything, chose to get closer. Now, one of the notes. So Jacob now, let's assume that the snake is removed.
Okay.
With 10 ink, you can goat, bounce goat, goat. So that's 3 lore. So Jacob has enough. If he has another snake, there's the goat.
So that's 2, 3 lore. So he's at 18 right now, paying. There's 2. That's all right. 19. I guess 1 more.
And look at it showing he's got the Tremaine to remove the snake.
Yeah.
He's got the extra spellbook for another lore. Got the bounce. Now, what makes this so fun? Like, look at the cards Bobby was holding. He had the goats. He had the extra spellbook. He had those answers in his hand.
Yeah.
And so he's waiting. He's playing it safe, preventing his opponent from getting within striking distance, playing it safe, drawing it out. But at any time, if Jacob gave him just a little bit of room.
Yeah.
If Jacob left just one extra character on the board, Bobby closes that out turns earlier.
Yeah. Wow, well, there you go. All right, so Bobby is going to advance on to face Aaron in the finals.
So look,
What?